Inside Study Abroad. Today I'm talking to Mandy Reinig. She's runs a one-person study abroad show at Penn State-Altoona. You might know her as a tweeter. She tweets as PSUAA Abroad and as Mandy's Mashups. So you can find her on Twitter there. You might also know her, if you're not in the Twitter sphere, from her work as the Education Abroad Network Leader for NAFSA. And she's done a ton of conference presentations on social media in study abroad. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And recently, she's launched her own social media consultancy called Mandy's Mashups. And we're really excited to have her here. Thanks, Mandy.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Cool, great. Well, okay, as I start all of my interviews, I have to know, what is your study abroad story?
Well, I studied abroad for the first time as a sophomore in college and fall semester sophomore year and went to England. It was my very first time away from home. I lived at home in college, so it was literally my very first time away from home. Totally freaked out. So it was an awesome experience. And basically from that experience, I was one of those students that came back and literally changed my major. I went from one extreme to another. I was athletic training when I went abroad, and I came back and became an international studies major.
Wow, that's such a common thing that I've seen happen with students. You know, they go away being an art history major and come back and they're going to be a permaculture major or something crazy like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't recommend doing it. Had to do it because of the timing of the athletic training and all of that. I ended up having to do it at the start of junior years when I officially changed. I really don't recommend doing that for students.
Well, I'm open to it, but I mean, I also think that it's a big switch to make, especially after a life-changing experience like study abroad or anything else could happen. You're not supposed to make huge shifts like that psychologically. But I think it's really interesting when students come back and they were a pre-med major, and they come back and they sit in my office and they said, I've always wanted to be a doctor. And then after having done a community service project or something while they studied abroad and seeing it firsthand, they were like, I've never wanted to be a doctor more than I do now. So things like that also happen too, where it just reinvigorates their passion for whatever they're studying. So that's really exciting too.
It can go from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
So
yeah, totally. Tell me about how your study abroad career started. So you majored in international studies, and then what happened?
Well, I also minored in international business and Spanish, and I really liked the Spanish culture and language, so I said, you know what, I might as well keep going and go ahead and get my master's degree, because I knew if I stopped going to school at that point that I wasn't going back.
Right.
So I went ahead and applied and was accepted into a Latin American Studies program at Ohio University.
Oh, cool.
And the nice part, the reason why I did that, it was a quarter system program, so I could be done in a year and a half. Now, after I finished that, I highly don't recommend doing a quarter system program for a graduate program. It's a lot of work. You do 45 credits basically in a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And while there, even after I came back from my study abroad, I knew I wanted to work in study abroad, because I just had such a wonderful experience. I was like, so many students need to do this. And I had volunteered as part of my scholarship in undergrad after I came back. And then when I did my grad program, I worked in their office for 6 months as a program assistant. And then when I was getting towards the end of my grad program, I just started applying for like every single study abroad job that was out there. I think at some point I had started recording them in a spreadsheet. I think at some point I had applied for like some 80 plus jobs.
Yeah. Sounds familiar. Very familiar. Yes.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I even applied for things like with the State Department and their passport office, basically anything related to international travel I was applying for.
Well, what do you think, with 80 plus applications out there? I know I had a very similar situation when I was trying to get my first job, and I've talked to a ton of people recently who are struggling. They've sent out tons of applications. What characteristics or skills or experiences do you think helped land you those jobs? What got your foot in the door, made you stand out amongst the others?
I think a couple things. One, if you want a study abroad job, you have to have studied abroad.
Yeah.
I think that's a definite thing.
Yes, that's obviously. I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope that's a given to everyone out there watching.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing is you should at least have worked in study abroad, and it can be in a volunteer capacity. I don't
Hmm.
think necessarily it needs to be paid because even volunteer positions can go on your resume. So
Hmm.
I think having some sort of experience and understanding of how programs operate from
Hmm.
the other side, both as a participant and as the person running them.
Hmm.
I know that helped it. And I think the other thing that for me helped me get this job is presentation skills. Because when you're a one person office or even when you're the advisor, you end up making a lot of presentations to a
Hmm.
lot of students. So having presentation skills and being outgoing is really important.
Yeah, I definitely, I know when I ran a one-person office like you're doing now at Penn State, I I had to just be out there all the time, just ridiculously excited about study abroad, and to
Yeah,
faculty, to students, to administrators, to the president, anybody I was in front of,
yeah,
I had to be on my game, on my best game at every moment, just because I felt like I had to show them how valuable the experience was. Not just because I was excited, but because I could say, look at all these great students coming back. Look at what they're saying about their experience. Look how they're reflecting on the university. I mean, all these great ways to spin it.
exactly.
And I couldn't have a day where I was like, meh, meh, study abroad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I can totally relate to that. Did when you first landed this job at Penn State, did after you got the job, did they tell you anything specific about what was on your resume or interviewing skills that they thought was
No,
incredible?
the weird part about my job, at least this job, is there was no one before me.
Mm.
I literally started the office,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know that they had anything to compare it to.
Mm. Gotcha.
Um, so it's not like they could say, well, the person before you had such and such skills, you
Right.
know?
Right.
They do occasionally sometimes make reference to the fact like, oh, this is why we hire you, why we hired you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's more, like I said, presentation skills. And the funny part about the presentation skills is I was one of those in high school that hated doing public speaking. And now I practically sometimes feel I do it for a living.
Yeah.
So it's very weird. You have to be very outgoing in this
Mm-hmm.
job. So, it's just very weird. And I think some of the other skills that they may mention is being able to multitask,
Mm-hmm.
because, especially in one person office, but just in general, you have to be able to flip from one thing to another
Mm-hmm.
in moments' notice. Because a student could come in and say, oops, I forgot to do my visa. And then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, yeah, maybe you should do that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, let's switch gears a little bit. You've been really active in social media, and obviously, I know I met you through Twitter. I mean,
Yeah,
just so everyone was watching, this is the first time we've ever actually had a
exactly.
voice on voice conversation. But I feel like I've interacted with you a ton via social media. And so I'd just love to hear how did you get involved with social media? Because it hasn't been around forever. And I don't
No,
even,
exactly.
Twitter definitely wasn't around when you started this position. So how did it get started for you?
No, it happened extremely by accident.
Mm.
I kind of fell into it. I was completing my second master's degree here at Penn State, and I did it in teaching English as a second language. And one of the classes I took was teaching with technology.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing a bunch of different things, and I wasn't teaching at the time, obviously. And I said, "Well, would you mind if I did this, use it in my current job with study abroad?" And my instructor was like, "Nope, go ahead, try things out." So I actually started blogs for my campus, and it's kind of spiraled out of control from then. From
Okay.
trying blogs to then
Yeah.
trying Facebook, trying Twitter,
Yeah.
and going on from there.
Okay. Well, so since you started using it, especially for your office, for the study abroad office specifically, social media is a conversation plus a marketing tool. And
Right.
so, how has it impacted student participation or interaction with your office?
In terms of like just social media in general, I think it has helped, especially in terms of the blogs. I think that students have really enjoyed the blogs because I can see what other students are doing while they're abroad, especially the photos. They really like seeing like actual things that students are doing. And then with other aspects of social media, obviously everybody's on Facebook, so they're already posting. We just had a group come back from Germany, an engineering group, and they posted on there like countdowns to when they were going, and they posted like, okay, we're back now what, and all sorts of stuff like that. It's it's ways for them to connect and create a little community too.
Yeah. Do you think that it's I mean, obviously this might be anecdotal, but you might have already done research on it too, but do you think by the use of social media you've been able to reach students that traditionally may not have been as interested in study abroad, or just thought study abroad wasn't available to them?
I'm not sure. That'd be interesting. I haven't done any research on that. Being one person office, there's never enough time to do everything.
I know.
So,
you can add that to the 100 to-do list.
The never-ending to-do list.
Exactly.
I think that in some ways it has, because I know some students have said, oh, I didn't think about that, or, I saw the post and different things like that. I think just for our campus, just because it wasn't here before, like 5 years ago, we had one student go, and now we have over 100.
Yeah.
A lot of it's just plain old word of mouth. And now with the Facebook and things like that, I think it is spreading a little bit now that we have more students going and they're posting their photos. In that capacity, I don't know if it's necessarily me posting stuff as much as the students posting stuff, which is just as good.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I found it interesting. I wrote a post about this, I don't know, a few months ago, but I feel that a lot of students are seeing study abroad as sort of a natural part of the college experience, that it's sort of a given. It's like living in the dorms. You just do it during college. And there was some research actually done that shows that a lot entering college freshmen, I want to say that the stat was like 75% or something really high, said that they intend to study abroad during college. Obviously, as we know, the attrition rate is ridiculous, and nowhere near 75% of students actually do it. So I think getting students engaged with social media about study abroad at the early stages is just one way that maybe we can get more of those students to continue through and actually go on the experiences. So I love social media, obviously. So I get really excited when people like you are like definitely like presenting on it and talking about how it has impacted. And I think we all need to do a better job of showing it, like not just saying like, oh, it's wonderful, but sort of like study abroad. It's like, we know it's wonderful, but show me some data. So I'm excited for all of us that are doing social media to start being able to show some hard and fast facts about it and data.
Yeah, and now that it's been around a little bit longer, I think it was so new that there just wasn't enough people using it for us to be able to do anything data-wise. And now that we see proof that so many people are using it, I think we can finally start doing stuff with that in terms of data.
The duck is quacking. Oh no.
Your little duck.
Sorry everyone, that means time is up. The duck starts quacking. I just have one more question for you. Well, two. Okay, so if anybody's watching this who wants to use social media, and you're a one-person study abroad office, so nobody really has an excuse to not use it. But if you sort of in three quick tips, very quick tips, because time's up, somebody hasn't been doing social media at all and they want to, what are three pieces of advice that they could do that are quick, simple, easy?
One, it doesn't take as much time as you think it does. Obviously I'm a one-person office. I don't spend all day on social media. I obviously have other things to do. The other tip is I make use of social media aggregators like TweetDeck or Hootsuite. They save a lot of time, so I highly recommend them. Third tip is just jump in. You don't know anything about it. You don't know what it's like until you actually try it. And I think you'll find that, one, you'll like it, and two, it's a lot easier and a lot more fun than you think it is.
And think of it as like a completely different culture that you're getting to know, just like study abroad.
It is, and you meet so many fun and interesting people too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, great. Okay, and then if you could study abroad anywhere, knowing everything you know now, where would you go?
That's a good question. There are a lot of places on my hit list, shall we say, of places. I'd love to go to Egypt. Yeah. That's definitely on my list. Egypt and Greece, I think.
Okay, great. Well, everyone, this is Mandy Reinig from Penn State-Altoona, where she runs this one-person study abroad office. You can also find her on Twitter at PSUAAabroad, and you can find out more about social media through her social media consultancy, mandysmashups.com. Thanks so much for being with me here today.
No problem. It was fun.
Can't wait to see it now. So.
All right.